She's not even worth looking at. Her pack laughed. The Alpha King knelt before her. Ilara had always known the sting of ridicule. In her pack, she was called weak, clumsy, and ugly. Every word, every laugh felt like a dagger to her heart. Yet she never spoke back. She had learned long ago that silence was safer than anger. She moved like a shadow among the others, unnoticed, unseen, and unimportant. Her pack did not value kindness, courage, or heart. They valued strength, power, and beauty. And in all these things, Ilara seemed to have none. The winter sun barely broke through the thick fog that clung to the valley. The trees were ancient, their twisted limbs like the arms of giants reaching for the sky. The ground was frozen, hard beneath her feet. Ilara followed the others into the forest, keeping to the back. Her small hands clutched a wooden staff, a gift from her mother who had long passed. It was carved with simple symbols of protection, though Ilara did not yet understand their power. Her pack laughed behind her. "Don't even trip on the roots, little shadow," one boy called. The girls snickered. "She's not even worth looking at." Her cheeks burned not just from the cold, but from the shame that had become her constant companion. She had no friends. She had no family beyond the cruel faces that surrounded her. And yet, as always, she moved forward, silent and careful, following the pack where they would lead. The hunt that day was meant to test courage, a ritual for young members of the pack. They chased deer through the forest, testing speed, strength, and skill. Ilara's legs were short and her steps awkward. Every time she tried to run, the wind seemed to mock her, catching her hair and tangling her cloak. Every time she lifted her bow, her hands shook. She missed every target, and the laughter never stopped. At the edge of the forest, where the mist was thick and the shadows deeper, the pack stopped. A low, commanding growl cut through the air. The laughter died instantly, replaced by startled murmurs. From the fog emerged a figure so tall, so powerful, that even the strongest members of the pack trembled. Kalen, the Alpha King. He was a legend, feared by all. His hair was black as the night, and his eyes glowed like molten gold. He walked with the calm certainty of someone who knew he ruled not just by strength, but by destiny itself. Every step he took made the earth seem smaller, as if the trees themselves bowed to his presence. The pack froze. No one dared speak. Even the bravest hunters of the valley felt their courage falter. Then, the impossible happened. Kalen knelt, not in submission, not in joke. He knelt before Ilara. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. Her knees shook. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared it might betray her fear. The laughter of her pack seemed distant now, meaningless, fading into the mist. Kalen's gaze rested on her, unflinching, unwavering. There was no pity there, no mockery, only recognition.
"You," he said, his voice deep and steady, "are not what they claim you to be." Ilara did not know what to say. She opened her mouth, then closed it again.
Words felt useless. Who was she to deserve attention from a king, a creature of legend? Her pack watched in disbelief. Whispers ran through the trees. Some muttered that Kalen had lost his mind. Others feared that he had seen something in her that even they could not. Kalen reached out a hand. "Come forward," he said. The world seemed to slow. Ilara stepped cautiously toward him. Every step was a battle with fear and disbelief. She had never imagined such a thing could happen. She had never imagined anyone looking at her with respect, let alone kneeling in front of her. When she was close enough, Kalen's golden eyes seemed to pierce her very soul. He did not smile. He did not speak in riddles. He simply looked at her with a weight of understanding that made her shiver. "You carry a power you do not yet know," he said. "A bloodline cursed and blessed. one that can change the fate of kingdoms.
Laura's heart skipped.
She wanted to pull back, to run, to hide, but something inside her, the part she had always buried, stirred. She felt warmth in her chest, a flicker of hope and fear and awe all at once. Her pack hissed and shouted. "Stop this madness," one of the elder wolves barked. "She is nothing." "She is weak." Kalen's gaze never wavered.
Your fear does not define you.
Only what you choose to do with it does. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, as if the forest itself responded to his words. Elara felt a tingle run through her veins. She did not understand it, but it felt alive. Something old and powerful and strange was awakening inside her. Her pack recoiled, taking half steps back. Some of the younger members whispered prayers, afraid that the touch of Kalen's interest might bring a curse. Others stared wide-eyed, as if seeing a new world open before them. Elara's own hands shook. She could feel the energy around her, strange and warm. She wanted to reach out, to touch it, but fear made her hesitate. Kalen's hand hovered near hers, patient, giving her space to accept or retreat. "You do not have to be afraid," he said.
I kneel to you because I see the truth, the strength they do not recognize.
The light they cannot imagine. You are more than what they tell you. For the first time in her life, Elara felt seen, not judged, not mocked. Seen. And the feeling was overwhelming. Tears threatened, but she blinked them back. She did not trust them yet. She only knew that everything she had been told about herself, the lies, the cruelty, was being challenged in the most impossible way. Kalen straightened slightly, though he remained closer to the ground than the others.
"If you choose, you can come with me. Learn what you are, learn what you can become, and no one here will touch you again."
Elara wanted to speak, but words failed. Instead, she nodded slowly. The nod felt heavy with meaning. It was more than agreement. It was the first act of courage she had ever allowed herself. The pack erupted into anger. "You cannot leave," one shouted. "She belongs to us." Kylan's voice cut through the chaos. No one belongs to anyone. Power is not given by fear. It is earned by choice. Then, as if the forest itself answered his words, the mist thickened, swirling around them like a protective veil. Elara felt safe for the first time, as if the world had tilted to shield her. The pack shouted, tried to break through, but they could not. The moment had passed their understanding. Kalen extended his hand fully. "Come with me, Elara. Let us discover the truth of your bloodline. Let us see what you can become." Elara hesitated only a second more. Then, with a breath that was part fear and part hope, she took his hand. The moment her fingers touched his, warmth flowed into her, a strange energy that made her knees weak. She could feel the pulse of something ancient, something powerful, flowing through her veins. Her pack watched in stunned silence. The ugly, worthless girl, the one they had mocked for years, was leaving with the Alpha King himself. Their laughter had been replaced by disbelief, awe, and fear, and somewhere deep inside, they knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As they walked toward the mist and shadows of the forest, Kalen spoke quietly, just for her.
You carry the curse and the gift, Elara.
And soon you will understand why I kneel before no one but you. She did not know what dangers waited, what challenges she would face, or what powers she would awaken. But for the first time in her life, she felt alive. She felt important. She felt seen. And that was enough. For now. The forest swallowed them, fog curling around their steps, carrying with it the whispers of prophecy, power, and danger. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, a warning or a welcome. Elara could not tell. All she knew was that her life had changed forever. The pack she had known was behind her, scornful and afraid. The Alpha King who had knelt before her was ahead, and the world between them was vast, dangerous, and full of magic waiting to be discovered. Elara had never seen a place like Kaelin's castle. It rose from the forest like a shadow carved in stone, black walls gleaming faintly under the moonlight. The towers reached so high that the clouds seemed to touch them, and the air hummed with magic, subtle but alive. The fog that had followed them from the valley swirled around the gates, keeping the outside world distant and unreachable. For the first time, Elara felt safe. Kaelin walked beside her, his golden eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. Even in silence, he commanded attention, and Elara could not stop herself from staring. The fear and awe she had felt in the forest had not diminished. She wanted to look away, but some invisible force held her gaze, tethering her to him as firmly as his hand had tethered her to safety. "This way," Kaelin said, his voice calm, low, and filled with authority. They passed through a large archway into the main hall. It was grand, yet dark. Ancient tapestries hung from the walls, depicting scenes of battles long forgotten, and wolves larger than any she had ever seen. The air smelled faintly of herbs, old stone, and something more elusive, a scent that seemed to make the hairs on her arms rise. "You are safe here," Kaelin said. "No one from your pack can touch you, and no harm can reach you without my knowledge." Elara wanted to believe him, but years of ridicule had left deep scars. Her lips trembled slightly as she asked, "Why? Why me?"
I am nothing. I am weak.
Kaelin stopped walking. He turned to her, his gaze holding hers like a question without words. "You are nothing to those who only see what is easy to mock. But I see what they cannot. You have power, courage, and heart, though you do not know it yet. You carry a gift and a curse. Both are dangerous. Both are rare." Elara shivered. She had never thought of herself as dangerous, and the word gift sounded foreign on her tongue. Her life had been simple, quiet, unnoticed. How could she carry anything that mattered? "You will learn," Kaelin continued. "But first, you must rest. You have walked through shame, fear, and ridicule. You need strength." He led her to a room high in the castle. The walls were made of dark stone, and the windows framed the moonlight in a silver glow. A large bed sat in the center, draped with thick blankets and furs. It smelled faintly of lavender and smoke. Elara sank onto the bed, overwhelmed. I don't know what I am," she whispered. Kaelin knelt beside her, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel his presence, like a shield.
"That is why you are here," he said softly.
"You will learn to understand, to control, to choose what kind of power you will have. And then the world will know your true strength." For a moment, Elara felt a strange comfort. She had never had anyone speak to her like that, without mockery, without judgment, without fear. Her heart beat faster, but not with shame, with something new, something she could not name. Over the next days, Kaelin taught her small things at first. How to feel the energy around her, how to sense the life in plants, animals, and even the wind. Elara discovered that she could feel what others felt in small bursts. Anger, fear, sadness. Though she could not yet control it, each lesson left her exhausted but exhilarated.
"You must trust yourself," Kaelin said during one evening lesson.
They stood on a balcony under the full moon, the forest stretching endlessly below. Trust what is inside you, even if it frightens you. Fear is natural, but it cannot rule you. Elara nodded, though doubt still lingered. She wanted to be brave, But old fears were hard to forget. Yet every time Kaelin looked at her, there was no doubt, no judgment, only expectation. And something in that gaze made her want to rise to it, to prove that she was more than her pack's cruel words. One night, while practicing alone in a quiet hall, Elara felt a surge of energy she could not explain. Her hands glowed faintly as if lit by an inner flame. Shadows on the walls twisted and danced, not threatening, but responsive to her presence. She gasped, stepping back, unsure what she had done. Kaelin appeared silently behind her, as he often did. "Good," he said quietly, almost with pride.
You are beginning to feel it. The power is yours, but it obeys only your mind and your heart.
Never let anger control it. Never let fear bind it.
It felt alive.
Like it was listening to me. Because it is, Kaelin said. It responds to who you are inside. That is why your choices matter so much. Every thought, every feeling, every action will shape your power.
As the days passed, Elara's bond with Kaelin deepened.
Not just through lessons, but in small moments. The way he watched her while she slept. The way he listened when she spoke. The way he allowed her space, but never let her feel alone. She began to see him not only as a teacher, but as a protector. A guide, and something more complicated. Someone who could understand her, perhaps even value her. Kaelin, too, felt the stirrings of emotions he had long buried. He had lived decades, hardened by loss, betrayal, and the cold weight of responsibility. No one had ever stirred his heart in this way. And yet, with Elara, it was impossible to ignore. He had knelt for her in the forest, not because he was weak, but because he recognized a strength he could not ignore, and a connection he did not yet understand. One evening, as the moon rose high, Elara dared to ask, "Why did you kneel before me?" Kaelin looked at her, shadows playing across his face. "Because I saw the truth," he said.
Not the lies they told you, not the cruelty you suffered.
"I saw the heart they could not see, and the power they could not imagine. And because sometimes the greatest strength is hidden where no one dares to look." No one had ever spoken to her with such clarity, with such belief in her. She wanted to believe him, but fear was a stubborn companion. I don't know if I can," she admitted softly.
You can, Kaelin said. You must.
"The world will challenge you. The blood in your veins carries a destiny. And if you do not rise, others will fall to darkness. But you have the choice to stand." Her heart ached with the weight of his words. Choice, power, responsibility, all things she had never imagined she could hold. Yet the thought of failing was terrifying. She had spent her life believing she was nothing, and now the world was telling her she could be everything. Days turned into weeks. Elara trained, learned, and grew under Kaelin's guidance. She discovered that her powers could do small miracles. Light candles with a thought, calm frightened animals, even influence the emotions of people nearby. Every success made her bolder, but every failure reminded her of the fragility of her control. Kaelin watched quietly, correcting her when necessary, praising her when deserved. Their interactions were always formal, but the tension between them was undeniable. Every glance, every word, carried layers of unspoken meaning. Elara found herself thinking of him constantly, not just with respect, but with longing she did not yet understand. One night, as snow fell softly outside the castle, Kaelin found her standing alone in the main hall, staring at the firelight dancing on the stone walls. "You think too much," he said gently, stepping closer. "You fear what you cannot yet control. That is natural, but do not forget the courage you have shown."
Do not forget that I believe in you. Elara's eyes met his.
She wanted to speak, but No words could capture the swirl of emotions inside her. Fear, desire, gratitude, wonder, and something deeper. An unspoken pull she did not yet dare to name. Kalen extended his hand, not to touch, but as a silent offer. Do not fear the bond we share. It is not weakness, it is strength, and it will help you survive what is coming. Alara hesitated, then placed her hand near his, not touching, but acknowledging the connection. The air seemed to shimmer between them, charged with an energy both strange and comforting. Suddenly, a distant howl echoed through the forest, low and ominous. Kalen's eyes narrowed. They are watching, he said. The pack, the enemies who fear your power, they are not done yet. And neither are the forces that seek to twist your bloodline for their own ends. Elara's breath caught. She had thought she was safe. She had thought the forest, the castle, and Kalen's presence would protect her. But now she understood the truth. Her journey was only beginning. The world was larger, darker, and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Kalen stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Whatever comes, you will not face it alone. But you must learn to trust yourself and me.
Elara nodded, her heart pounding.
The fear was still there, but so was a strange courage. A spark that had been buried for years was now alive, fed by Kalen's belief in her and her own growing power. The night stretched on, snow falling silently outside. Shadows twisted and danced, and Alara felt the pulse of magic in the walls, in the air, and within herself. She knew that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges, and new dangers. But for the first time, she also knew that she was not alone, and that the bond with Kalen was something rare, fragile, and powerful. Alara had changed. The girl who had been laughed at by her pack, called weak and worthless, was gone, or at least she no longer recognized her former self. The lessons with Kalen had awakened something within her, a quiet strength, a spark of magic she could feel pulsing through her veins. Yet, with every step forward, fear followed. Could she truly control her power? Could she survive the challenges that awaited her? Kalen watched her closely as they prepared to return to the valley where her pack dwelled. The journey had been quiet, with the forest blanketed in soft snow, the moonlight painting the trees silver, but beneath the serene beauty, tension hummed. Alara knew the pack would not accept her as she now was. They had mocked her, humiliated her, and they feared what they did not understand. You are ready? Kalen said quietly, his golden eyes scanning her face. But remember, fear can still cloud your mind. You must trust your heart, as well as your strength. Alara nodded, her fingers brushing the edge of her cloak, which now seemed heavier, lined with a confidence she did not yet fully understand. I am ready, she whispered, though even she wondered if it was true. The valley spread out before them like a frozen battlefield. Her pack was there, gathered as always, their laughter and whispers immediately fading when they saw Kalen. Some of them froze, some bowed in respect, and some simply stared in disbelief. The girl they had mocked, the one they had called worthless, was now standing beside the Alpha King himself. Stay close, Kalen said, lowering his voice.
They will try to test you. Elara felt her heart tighten. She remembered every cruel word, every glance, every act of scorn.
But she also remembered Kalen's faith in her, the lessons she had learned, and the spark of power that had awakened inside her. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and followed Kalen forward. At first, the pack tried to intimidate her with whispers and gestures. What is he doing with her? One elder demanded. She is nothing! Alara felt the anger rise in her chest, but Kalen placed a hand lightly on her shoulder and she breathed deeply. Calm, focus, control. She could feel the energy around her, the subtle pulse of the forest. the warmth of the castle magic still flowing through her. Then the moment came. One of the strongest warriors of her pack stepped forward, blocking her path. "You are not welcome here," he said, voice low and dangerous. "You will leave with him or face the consequences." Elara's pulse quickened. Fear tried to creep in, but she refused to let it rule her. She stepped forward, lifting her hand slightly. Shadows stirred at her feet, curling like living tendrils, moving at her will. The warrior's eyes widened, and he instinctively stepped back. Kaelin's voice cut through the tense air. "Do not strike unless necessary. Show them control, not anger." Elara inhaled and exhaled. Slowly, she raised her hand again, and the shadows moved upward, swirling around her in a protective circle. The pack fell silent. They had never seen her like this. They had never imagined she could hold even a fraction of this power.
You
are," one of the younger wolves whispered. His fear was clear, but so was his awe. Kaelin gave her a small nod. "Good. Now, remain calm. You must prove that your strength is not a threat without reason." Elara let the shadows recede slowly. Her hand shook slightly, but her heart was steady. For the first time, she did not feel small. She felt formidable. She felt like herself for the first time in her life. But not everyone was convinced. From the edges of the valley, a figure watched silently, a member of her own pack she had trusted once, smiling sweetly but harboring dark intentions. They had aligned secretly with a rival force, one that sought to claim her bloodline's magic for their own ends. Elara did not notice them yet, but Kaelin did. He tightened his jaw. "Someone is hiding," he whispered, his senses alert. "Watch carefully. Not all enemies are obvious." The day passed with more tests. Her pack attempted to challenge her at every turn, testing both her courage and her control of magic. Each challenge was a small battle of wit, skill, and patience. Elara discovered more of her own abilities. She could calm the anger in others, sense the intent of those around her, and subtly influence the environment. The wind, the frost, even the faint pulse of life in the earth beneath her feet. Every success bolstered her confidence. Every failure reminded her that she was still learning. She was no longer the girl who hid in the shadows, but she was not yet the woman who could wield her full potential. Kaelin remained at her side, both protector and guide. Sometimes he corrected her with firm words. Other times he encouraged with quiet praise. Their bond grew, complicated and unspoken. There were moments when Elara caught him watching her with intensity, and she realized that their connection went beyond teacher and student.
She tried to ignore the flutter in her chest, but it was impossible.
The tension between them was constant, silent and electric. One evening, as the blood-red moon rose high over the valley, Kaelin led Elara to a hidden glade. The ground was soft with moss, and the trees seemed to bend toward them, protective and ancient. He stopped at the center and gestured to the circle of shadows around them. "Tonight," he said, "you will face the final test. Not with your pack, not with me, but with yourself." Elara's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Kaelin's eyes softened slightly. "You must confront your fear. You must embrace what you have always hidden. The power, the courage, the truth of who you are. Only then will you be ready to protect yourself and those who need you." She nodded, though fear knotted her stomach. Alone, she stepped into the circle. Shadows rose around her, wrapping gently like a cocoon. She felt her heartbeat, loud and insistent and focused. Slowly, she allowed herself to remember every insult, every humiliation, every moment she had been told she was nothing. And then she let it go. The shadows pulsed and stretched, absorbing the pain, the anger, the fear. A warmth spread through her chest, and she felt a new clarity, a new strength. She opened her eyes, and the glade glowed faintly with a soft light that seemed to come from her own heart. Kalen stepped closer, a rare smile on his face. Well done. You have begun to master yourself. That is the true test. Alara felt a rush of pride, but it was short-lived. From the edge of the glade, the traitor revealed themselves. They stepped into the moonlight, eyes gleaming with malice.
You think you can rise above us? They hissed.
You are nothing. Your power will belong to us. Alara's heart pounded, but she did not retreat. She felt Kalen's presence behind her, steady and reassuring. She focused. Shadows rose around her, stronger than ever. The intruder faltered, fear creeping into their eyes for the first time.
You...
I'm not ready to wield my power, Alara said. Voice steady, her confidence growing. And you never will be. A sudden surge of magic pulsed from her, sweeping across the glade, forcing the intruder back. Kalen's hand brushed hers lightly, steadying her, grounding her. Together, they were formidable. The intruder fled, disappearing into the forest, leaving only whispers behind. Alara sank to her knees, exhausted but victorious. She looked at Kalen, who knelt beside her. His golden eyes glowed softly in the moonlight, pride and something deeper reflected in them. You did not just fight them, he said quietly.
You fought yourself, and you won.
That is why I kneel for you, Alara, not because you are weak, but because you are stronger than anyone can see.
Alara's chest tightened. She had fought her fear, her shame, and her doubts.
And she had survived. She had grown. And yet, she knew this was only the beginning. The forest was quiet, but a sense of unseen eyes lingered. Kalen's gaze darkened slightly. They are watching still, he said. The shadow that seeks to control your bloodline has not given up. And there are forces far older, far darker than your pack. You will face them, and you must be ready. Alara nodded, determination steady in her chest. Fear still existed, but it no longer ruled her. She felt alive, powerful, and, most unexpectedly, unafraid. Kalen's hand brushed hers again, lingering slightly longer than before. The unspoken tension between them was a flame that neither could ignore. For a brief moment, the world outside vanished, leaving only the circle of shadows, the moonlight, and the bond they shared. The valley was quiet, yet it held a tension that made Alara's heart beat faster than ever. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the sky, settling on the frozen ground, and the trees swayed gently, as if whispering secrets of the past. She had returned to her pack, not as the girl they had mocked, but as someone they had never imagined she could become. Her shoulders were straighter, her gaze steadier, and her steps lighter with confidence. Beside her, Kalen walked silently, as always. He did not need to speak for her to feel his support. The bond they shared had deepened through trials, battles, and the long nights of training and discovery. Their connection was unspoken, yet undeniable, a tether stronger than magic, rooted in trust, understanding, and the quiet intensity of hearts that had faced fear together. Her pack waited, clustered near the old stone circle at the center of the valley. Their eyes were wary, uncertain, and some were still filled with fear. They had seen her power, had felt the shadows bend to her will, and yet old pride and envy struggled to resist. The same people who had laughed at her now bowed in tentative respect, though many would never admit it aloud.
You will show them who you are, Kalen whispered. His hand brushed hers lightly, a gesture that sent warmth through her chest.
Not through anger or vengeance, but through your strength, your heart, and your choices. Alara nodded. She had learned much about herself, her power, and the responsibilities that came with it. And she had learned that strength was not just about magic or combat. It was about courage, compassion, and the willingness to face the truth. A figure stepped forward from the pack, the traitor who had secretly tried to claim her bloodline's magic. Their eyes glowed with malice, and a cold smile played on their lips. "You think you are strong," they said, voice low and cruel. "But you will fall. But you will fall. Your power will belong to me, whether you like it or not." Valera's gaze hardened. The shadows around her stirred, coiling like protective guardians. She could feel the energy in the earth beneath her, the whispers of the forest, the pulse of magic that had always been a part of her. This time, she would not hesitate. "You are wrong," she said, voice steady. "My power belongs to me. It has always belonged to me. And I will protect it, and those I care for with everything I am." The traitor lunged, but before they could reach her, Kaelin's presence flared beside her. He did not strike. He only stood, his eyes glowing with golden light. The intruder froze, sensing the combined strength of the two. Shadows moved around Alara, curling and stretching, protective and commanding. The intruder stumbled back, fear overtaking arrogance. "You cannot take what is not yours," Kaelin said, voice calm but commanding. "And I will not allow it." The intruder's power faltered, and with a howl of frustration they disappeared into the forest, leaving only the echo of their defeat behind. Alara sank to her knees, exhausted but victorious. The battle had not been one of sheer force alone. It had been a test of courage, control, and heart. Bathed she had passed. The pack was silent, staring at her in awe. Some lowered their heads, ashamed of their cruelty. Others hesitated, unsure if respect or fear should guide them. But Alara felt no desire for revenge. She had risen above their judgment, and her heart was free of their chains. Kaelin stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You have done more than survive," he said softly. "You have transformed, not just your power, but your spirit." Alara felt warmth spread through her chest. She had always believed she was nothing, but now she knew she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. Her power was real, her courage undeniable, and her heart stronger than she had ever dared to hope. The elder wolves approached, bowing slightly. "Alara," one said, voice trembling, "we see now. We were wrong. We judged what we could not understand. Will you forgive us?"
"I do not seek vengeance," she said, "but I will not forget."
"Let this be a lesson, not of fear, but of respect. We all have strength in ways we may not yet see. Do not mock it. Do not dismiss it." Her words were quiet, yet carried the weight of her journey. The pack nodded, humbled, and changed. The scorn that had once defined her life was gone, replaced by a sense of unity and understanding. Kaelin stood beside her, silent but proud. The bond between them was no longer just teacher and student. It was something deeper, something rare and precious. He had seen her potential when no one else could, and she had risen to meet it, not just for herself, but for all who believed in her. As the sun began to rise, casting gold and pink across the snow-covered valley, Kaelin took her hand. "The trials are not over," he said softly, "but you are ready for what comes next. Together we can face anything."
"I believe that now," she said. "With you, I feel ready."
The moment hung between them, quiet and powerful. It was more than words could capture, the unspoken connection of two souls who had faced fear, doubt, and danger together. It was a bond forged not by power alone, but by trust, respect, and shared courage. And yet, even in this moment of triumph, a whisper of unease lingered in the air. From the far edge of the forest, a dark presence watched. The eyes of an ancient force glowed faintly, unseen but felt, waiting for the right moment to test her again. Kalen's senses tingled. He did not speak, but his grip on her hand tightened slightly. He had faced many threats, but some dangers were older, darker, and more cunning than any he had known. And this, one would not reveal itself easily. Alara felt the stir of the shadows around her, protective and alive. She no longer feared them. She could feel her power flowing naturally, responding to her heart, her will, and her courage. She had become more than the girl who had been laughed at. She was a force in her own right, and she understood, at last, the truth of Kalen's kneeling in the forest, the recognition of strength, the respect for potential, and the promise of partnership. Kalen leaned closer, his voice a soft whisper.
You are not just the child of a cursed bloodline, you are the hope of it.
The one who will shape the future and protect what must be saved. Elara's heart swelled with a mix of pride, fear, and awe. She had faced ridicule, isolation, fear, and doubt. And now she had emerged not just alive, but stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace the destiny that had always been hers. The valley seemed to breathe around them, the snow sparkling under the rising sun, and the wind carrying whispers of magic and promise. Elara felt the world shift beneath her, subtle and profound. She was no longer the girl hidden in shadows. She was a force of light and strength, tempered by compassion and courage. Kalen's hand brushed hers again, lingering. Whatever comes, he said, we will face it together, not as master and pupil, not as king and subject, but as equals, partners in power, trust, and heart. Elara nodded, the warmth in her chest spreading. She understood now that strength was not just magic or combat. It was the courage to be herself, to trust her own heart, and to protect those she loved. She had learned to rise above fear, to embrace her power, and to shape her destiny. And in that moment, with the snow sparkling, the shadows moving softly around them, and the rising sun painting the valley in gold, she felt a peace she had never known. Not perfect, not complete, but real, true. And for the first time in her life, she felt whole. The world was not yet free of danger. Dark forces still lingered, and challenges would come again. But Elara knew she was ready. She had Kalen beside her, her power within her, and the lessons of courage, trust, and love to guide her. She had faced the shadows of the past, and now she would step boldly into the light of her own destiny.